Welcome to the Fireside Chat. I hope that you are enjoying the event so far. I don't know about you, but I've learned so much about AI and cool applications and use cases. As we could see, AI is transforming business models by automating processes, enabling data driven innovation, and inspiring the creation of a vibrant startup ecosystem. In today's panel, we'll talk about AI powered innovation, entrepreneurship, and how leaders navigate AI. But before we dive in, I would like to start by introducing our fantastic panel. It is my pleasure to welcome Meenu Gaba, Senior Director of Engineering at Google, Ovetta Sampson, Director of UX, AI, and Compute Enablement at Google, and Jessica Kamada, Managing Partner at Swizzle Ventures. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I've prepared some questions for you, but I would also like to encourage our audience to ask any questions on chat. Shall we get started? We've been hearing a lot about how AI is sparking a new wave of creativity and opportunity. The AI startup ecosystem is also rapidly expanding, and mature businesses are increasingly leveraging AI to stay competitive and to create value in novel ways. So, Ovetta, I would like to start with you. How do you see AI reshaping traditional business models, and what opportunities does this present for entrepreneurs looking to drive innovation and launch new startups? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. That's a lot. I think one of the things that I think most about when I think about AI reshaping business models is obviously productivity. Um, when you think about entrepreneurism or startups, or even organizations and teams within large organizations or companies, you always think about those little details that kind of slow action down that have to be done, but a lot of people just don't like to do, right? And I feel like with generative AI and AI, especially with rapid process automation, which has been around for a while, that those tasks that maybe we have to do but don't want to do are increasingly being shifted towards automation or AI agents, or even through chat or prompt engineering, so that it might have taken you that hour to write your first marketing plan. It could take you 10 minutes, right? Because you have an assistant that's helping you. So I think definitely productivity, increasing productivity within the individual realm, but also at scale. And then, of course, increased personalization. So the ability for businesses to really get to know their customers and users on a very intimate level, and also provide service at that same intimate level using the data that they collect, consensually, of course, to help better those experiences. And dare I say a little bit of anarchy? People might say agency, but I do think that what AI allows individuals and employees to do is to have more agency over how they do their work. So in the beginning, it may feel a little chaotic, where a lot of rules and policies may not even be in place right now to govern that type of AI use, but will maybe in the future. So right now it may feel a bit chaotic because individuals are using AI in any way that they think that they can make their lives better. And for the entrepreneur, it means the one man or one woman company is now one woman company with multiple agents that can help them to do all the things that need to be done in a startup. So it makes it even more accessible for anyone to start their own business. I remember just reading on LinkedIn about someone who was trying to go to this large tech company called Afrotech, and he needed a sponsor. And so he used generative AI to create an app that organized all the conference information. Does that app exist? Yes. But now he was able to do it just by himself. And his AI assistants. So who knows what the future will bring with creativity matched with labor and manpower.
Thank you so much, Ovetta. You touched on really important topics, and some of them I would like to double down a little bit more later in this conversation. But you mentioned prompt engineering, creativity, productivity, how agents can help solo entrepreneurs, at least at the beginning, going from idea to startup creation. So let's start with talking a little bit more about prompt engineering, because it's increasing accessibility but also decreasing the barriers to interact with large language models. So what trends do you see emerging in the intersection of UX and AI, and how are they shaping the future of human machine interaction?
I was interviewed by Deloitte earlier this year about what makes a developer. And I think the definition of developer is definitely shifting and changing. And we see this across tech companies as well as in startups and entrepreneur and in the entrepreneurial space. So there used to be this very narrow and strict definition of the person who programs a computer. And with generative AI and prompt engineering and natural language programming, we know now that we can speak to a computer and it can understand what we say. And so that opens up a whole new realm of people who can program a computer. Prompt engineering is one of those ways of doing that, giving frameworks to the computer to mimic, or to introducing personalities to the computer as well. And so we have a lot of ways where we can communicate with computers in a way that they can recognize our patterns and what we're asking for and requesting for, that we didn't before. That before there was only one narrow way, and that's coding. And now we can actually communicate. And so I think that brings in a whole new realm of folks and what we call developer experience. And that means a whole new tooling and platform to make that accessibility a utility. So now that we can engage with computers in different ways, we now need different tools and platforms to take advantage of that.
Thank you so much, Ovetta. And this is a perfect segue to my next question for Meenu. We talked about chaos of development in AI, good chaos, because development is so fast right now. So, Meenu, from the perspective of an engineering leader, and given the rapid advancements in AI, how do you manage prioritization in your engineering teams while still encouraging a culture of innovation and well being?
Thank you, Joanna. This is such a good question. I live and breathe this every single day. Yes, AI is moving very fast. And coming from a machine learning infrastructure team, my strategy has been to create smaller building blocks so it is easy to adapt to the changing times. This results in less throwaway work when the priorities or the user's needs change. And let's take a step by step. The first step to figuring out what is important is define your core business objectives. What are you optimizing for? You will always have more things to do than the time available. And if you only focus on the tactical task, you will miss out on dedicated time for innovation. So my idea is fence out some time for innovation, for exploration. Based on what you're comfortable with, it could be 20/80, 30/70, choose your number. But you need to dedicate some time for innovation. Another thing I encourage is rapid experimentation. That is the key to finding new things that you can focus on. Average success rate for experiments is around 12%. And actively communicating the value of experimentation will actually help you achieve new ideas, create new, you'll be able to focus on things that you have not been able to focus on because you're dedicating time for experimentation. And create a safe space for failure. Empower your teams to take risks. Good ideas can come from anywhere. And of course, you have to regularly review and adapt the priorities based on the emerging technologies and changing market. You might want to ask yourself regularly, hey, is there a better way to do this? Hey, maybe the users' needs have changed. What do I need to do differently to make sure I'm still being responsible, I'm still innovating, and I'm still delivering? The time to market is the key to success, but also meeting your customers' need is very, very important.
Thank you so much, Meenu. You touched upon some really interesting aspects of innovation and how we focus always on the user and how good ideas can come from anywhere. But also, it's becoming known that AI is generating vast amounts of code. So, how do you envision AI reshaping core engineering practices in the next 3 to 5 years, let's say?
Yes, AI is reshaping engineering practices, and you need to always be on the hook of for shipping new things. One of the things we have learned is that iterative development is the key. You have to be agile and flexible. You have to prioritize iterative development. You have to also create robust testing frameworks so you can release fast. Making responsible AI audits as part of your development process, which includes design, data collection, deployment, while maintaining a rapid release cycle is is a key, because if you don't do that, at the first thought you think that, oh, I will do that in the end after my model is ready, after my application is ready. But we all know, in software development, finding a bug earlier in the life cycle is much cheaper to fix and faster to fix. So one of the things we have to basically remember all the time is responsible AI has to be part of every part of the development life cycle. You cannot wait till the end. I'm so thankful there are so many mandates from the government to actually run some ethical reports, responsible safety reports that every company needs to do. We are using the power of AI for the advantage of the society and not hurting it anyway.
Thank you so much, Meenu. And let's shift gears a little bit now in our conversation. We talked about innovation practices in product development, in improving developer experience, in decreasing barriers to enter in the new AI age, engineering practices. So let's talk a little bit more about entrepreneurship. And Jessica, turning this conversation now to you, what are the high level trends in AI entrepreneurship that you believe will shape the next wave of successful startups?
I love that question because I feel like trends in AI is all the venture community is talking about right now. And actually, Ovetta touched on one major trend already in her answer earlier, which is that basically AI is enabling founders to do more with less. And for venture-backed startups, money is power. So AI is creating the ability for founders to be more capital efficient and to move faster both ways. So in super early stage startups, when you only have like a tiny capital amount, maybe you're funding it yourself, you're trying to bootstrap until you get your MVP, you can do a lot more from a coding and development perspective than you ever could. Maybe you have AI helping you to write code and plugging into different APIs that we didn't have 10 years ago, and you can do more with a 2-man team to be the equivalent of a 5 or 6-man engineering team. And so what we're seeing now is the time between, let's say, 0 to 1 products, or companies that are coming to market with their very first MVPs, the time to be doing that is a lot more condensed. And so that's what I think the largest trend is right now. I'm primarily a consumer and so B2C, B2B2C business model investor. There is a ton that's happening in the B2B and enterprise space with AI. For our fund at Swizzle Ventures, we're focusing on innovations that benefit women, which I think is timely, given this is a Women in ML symposium, and that benefit women's lives. So mostly in healthcare, caregiving, and financial health. And I think from a trend perspective, what we're seeing in the entire ecosystem is that AI is hitting B2B software first. It's helping us break down and translate calls and webinars like these. It's helping sales teams and automating sales processes and helping those teams move faster. It's doing a bunch of things. And what I'm super excited about is for AI to really hit consumer in a big way and to help end users. And one thing that we're seeing already in companies that we're investing in is the ability for AI to be personalized to each individual user. And one use case in this is in healthcare. So women's health is it's very robust. And part of that is because hormones introduce crazy variables that have been very difficult to control for in research, and giving really pinpointed recommendations on that are specific to each person. So now AI is enabling that to happen at scale, which we could never do before. So that's one trend that I'm really excited about. Other is, I think, kind of moving from access to editing. And instead of like having people do research about a billion things, it's saying, okay, this is the one thing that you should do.
Thank you so much, Jessica. I really loved how you touched upon different considerations that you take on when investing in AI startups, especially how you mentioned that we're looking at women holistically in order to develop and personalized solutions through AI, because it's, especially in healthcare, is one of the most fundamental and challenging things to do, is how to balance all the idiosyncrasies around women and hormones and come up with these personalized solutions for them. So I love that your fund is thinking about that and is investing in that space. You also mentioned investing in different industries and different solutions. So what are the most critical factors you consider when evaluating AI startups? And how has this criteria evolved as the field mature? Do you still use the same thought process and framework that you used at the beginning to make these bets and investments, or has it changed over time?
It's a great question. I think the biggest thing that has changed from, let's say, late 2023 or 2023 in general to now is that once ChatGPT launched and really the AI wave really started, I think there was this whole rush of startups that were trying to get in their next fundraising rounds to like add features that were AI just so that they could be in the AI conversation, because maybe they were trying to increase their valuation or they just wanted to seem like they were in on it. And for investors, you really had to parse out, okay, is this a native AI product that's actually solving the customer's problems? Or were AI features tacked on to simply say that the company was AI? And I think one way to parse that was to ask, are these advancements in AI the reason that this solution could not have existed 10 years ago? If yes, then it is probably a native AI solution versus someone like kind of acting like they're trying to be that. Today, I think that has decreased a lot because the brand new companies that we're investing in, pre-seed or seed, that started this year, they are native AI companies because they're just coming up in this world. So my questions for them is, okay, how is the company leveraging AI processes and tools into the company building process? Basically, how capital efficient are you given everything that exists today? And are you leveraging it to your best ability? The second thing, like I stated before, is that um, is this a native AI product that is actually solving the core problem? And the why now question is, what is that secret sauce that's making it so this could not have been built 10 years ago or even 5 years ago? And number three is the AI and the IP around the AI proprietary? Um, and if it's not proprietary, then like what is that secret moat that is around that AI that makes it defensible and that is very difficult for competitors to come in and build the same thing, and like what is going to make this a market winner? So those are the top things that I look at when looking at specifically from an AI perspective.
I love that framework. We always need to drive innovation, but stay close to our competitors and the market to really understand what's happening and what trends are emerging. And previously you mentioned that teams have to do more with less. So I think that's a perfect segue into my next question to Meenu, because I always really like to discuss trade-offs because making decisions is a critical part of decision making. And with that in mind, my next question is centered around exactly that. So, Meenu, how do you balance the pressure to release new AI features very quickly with the need for rigorous testing and ethical considerations?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Joanna. As I said earlier, that having a rigorous testing framework as part of your development process is a must. You There are now White House mandates to make sure that the AI we are developing is responsible and is safe. So that has to be part of your development process throughout. You need to make sure that every step of the process, design, data collection, deployment, is all safe, is tested for responsibility. And the way you balance is like, hey, how do I ship features fast and versus also make sure that I'm doing all the things that are required, all the things that are ethical, all the things that I should be doing, is making sure these processes are not heavyweight and they are part of your whole development life cycle. Doing it in the end actually does not help you. Actually, it slows you down. It might sound counterintuitive, but it does slow you down. So that's what we have been doing. And again, staying in touch with what is needed. What you were developing last quarter might not be needed now. So stay in touch with your users. Make sure that whatever new ways are coming out to make sure that your product is responsible and safe, you're adhering to those. There are lots of advancements happening every day in safety and responsibility. I stay in touch with what's latest, what's required, what are we doing, and where are the gaps? How do we identify those gaps and fill those gaps and continuously make our product better? We have ethical responsibility to the society to make sure our products are responsible. I want to meet the user's need, but I want to meet the user's needs safely. So safety is P0 for me. It's not negotiable. But shipping the features on time, the way to do it is make sure it's part of your process. It's a part of your process which is automated, which is you don't have to think about it. People don't make a mistake because of not knowing. They are doing it because it's just built into the process. They don't even have to know about it. In Google, that's what we strive for normally. But I think most of the industry is moving towards that, hey, safety is non-negotiable, responsibility is non-negotiable, and let's make sure that we have processes and tools in our development process so this does not become a hindrance, but this actually speeds up your release process. Keeping your releases nimble, having a continuous train of features where everything is always getting tested is the key.
I love that because safety is not negotiable. Innovation is not negotiable. We have so many things that need to happen in order to have these innovations getting to market. So Jessica, how do you see the balance between funding research heavy projects and those that focus more on commercialization?
As a VC in a traditional venture capital firm, this is typically what's true, is that we have pretty tight 10-year time windows that we expect our portfolio companies to return capital within so that we can return capital to our stakeholders. And so for me as an early stage investor, getting in that really first institutional round, that means that a company really has to go from like 0 to 100 in 10 years, which makes it really difficult to be funding research only companies versus focusing on commercialization. So because of that tight time frame and needing to return that capital, we focus on investing in AI products that are commercializing or that will commercialize within a year or so of us investing. That being said, I think that especially if it's a LLM or there's an LLM that's incorporated or native to the company, they're constantly learning, right? LLMs are only as best as the data that's fed and that they're learning from. So if the assumption is that they're constantly learning and improving their models, we do expect there to be some level of ongoing research in parallel with the commercialization efforts of the company.
And that's so critically important because in order to be able to achieve that level in which the technology is mature enough to be commercialized, we also have to have really good product market fit. So that leads me to my next question for Ovetta. How do you approach designing user experiences for AI-driven products?
Yeah, I think the first thing that you have to do when you're designing user experiences for AI driven products is to focus on people's needs and solving problems. Uh, I think there is a rush to put a tech first kind of wardrobe on when new technologies come out. But at the end of the day, people's problems do not come in products, right? The people experience them. And so when we're designing products that can solve people's problems, we know that those products become commercially viable. So I think the first step is to continue with the foundational level of product design that we've all known and loved, and that is how do we solve people's problems? And then secondly, I think when you're designing experiences with AI is to understand the relationship that the user and your products will have over time. AI and ML are dynamic technology. They're the first dynamic technology that we've been able to design with. Prior to ML and AI, the technology has been stoic or not very, basically non-dynamic. And AI and ML, by its very nature, is dynamic. And so when we're designing experiences with ML and AI, we have to understand that the product that we design that the person is initially engaged with will change over time. If it doesn't change over time, it's not taking full advantage of AI or ML within this product scope. So I think it's really important for us to realize that A, we're not the only people designing the product. B, the user has a lot to say about how that product will be engaged. And B, over time, that machine and person relationship will change. And so this gives us what I call scenario building design rather than just product design. The scenario will change over time, the context will change, and the product itself will evolve. And this is may sound like science fiction, but it's definitely here and now. Especially when we think of things like autonomous vehicles, which I used to work on as well. The relationship with the machine and the person evolves over time. And so we need to think about that in designing those relationships. But I do think that fundamentally, if we're going to leverage AI and ML for the goodness that it can do for the world, is that we need to keep it focused on solving user problems and not just on the technology itself.
I love that. And what part of the process do you integrate user feedback into product design and product development? As a developer relations lead, I have to ask this question.
Yeah, I think Meenu touched on it earlier. And again, like ML and AI is a dynamic technology, right? So it evolves over time. So the sooner that you can get users involved in your product design process, the better. Leaving it to the end will just give you all kinds of problems. I think I'm a big proponent of co-participatory and co-design. Co-participatory design, meaning that the user basically designs the product with you as it evolves. You're moving from thoughts to things a lot faster. You're having an iterative cycle, and you're incorporating user feedback in that iterative cycle as you not only collect data and build the model, but also put the model into production. So users have they should have a stake and a voice in what you're building from end to end, as we say in the product design process. I think there's this tendency to kind of wait until you have something all the way built. And with ML and AI, you can leave spaces and gaps for users to help you to visualize and see what the experience really should be. And you can use ML and AI through simulations and research and other ways, concepting and validation, because you actually don't know how users are going to react to something that is automated. We don't know. And so putting users in the thick of our iterative product design process is kind of like a given or a must, or what I call first principles for AI design.
As a developer relations lead, I'm always looking to find new ways on how to bring in more feedback from our users, because I truly believe the more we test, the more we put the products and the services and these technologies in the hands of the users, the better feedback we'll collect and the better the experience will be at the end of the day for everybody. Because these technologies, they are so transformative and they're going to be used by billions of people. So the teams also need to have representation of the people who are going to build these technologies, which is why we're having this conversation today. So Jessica, if I may ask you the next question, how can women have a seat at the table? Or let me rephrase it. What unique perspectives do you believe that women bring to leadership in AI?
One is, I'll echo Ovetta a little bit here to say women in AI have a perspective to bring, that we have the privilege to create products that solve problems for us specifically and for humans in general, versus just saying, hey, I'm gonna build another tool or widget that does this for a corporation. That's number one. And number two is, I think we have the responsibility as women and and leaders in AI, sorry, I'm not technical, I don't build products, but for the folks that do, to ensure their AI models are trained on diverse data. So especially LLMs, they're only as accurate as the data that they're trained on. And historically, a vast majority of the information across the internet in general was created by men. And so sometimes what ChatGPT or another bot will spit out is from a man's perspective. Um, and this makes LLMs implicitly biased. So there's this gender data gap in general that exists on the internet that I think if we're not careful, AI can proliferate, and we have the opportunity to bring it back and make sure that that data set is diversified, that is being trained on. So this is just a quick example because I was reading this article yesterday about in the New York Times where a journalist offloaded all of her decisions to AI tools for 1 week. And when she asked what she should wear at home after her workday, the chatbot advised her to wear stylish clothes with light makeup on. And like, I don't know about you, but that's not what I'm doing when I get home from work. So I think, the issue is that chatbots give advice, especially when asked about decision making, based on the average of what everyone wants. But if that average is that it's trained on information based on what men want, then that's a huge issue for women. So I think that we just have a huge opportunity to improve that integrity of data. And one of our portfolio companies, actually, that's called DM, is building a solution to close this gender data gap. And they're training their proprietary LLM on both reputable research in women's health that has been data clinician backed, and also real conversations from their 100% female community, with the goal of making women feel safe because they're getting kind of accurate data back from their LLM. So I'll end with this and just say that if AI is meant to be good for humanity, which as an optimist, I think it can be, then the people and the teams building it need to be representative to the humanity and population that they're building for, with women being obviously 50% of that.
Yes, 100%. So maybe it's time to ask Meenu what's her vision on this topic as well, since she leads development of AI products. Meenu, how do you think these unique female or diverse perspectives will influence the direction of AI development?
Oh, God. Jessica said it all. I 100% agree with Jessica. The involvement of women in AI is not limited to just technological framework. Yes, we have great women engineers. So, there are lots of examples where women are leading the technology, but it is also essential to have diverse viewpoints into the domain. And diversity is crucial so that we are reflective of the complex nature of our global society. Our society is not like, oh, everybody thinks the same way. As Jessica pointed out, we are about 50% of the population. So we need to represent our point of view. And there is so I don't want to stereotype women. There are some things that women bring to the table a lot more than men. I'm not saying men don't have that. Besides their technical expertise, they also bring empathy. They bridge the gap between technical and societal understanding. They bring collaboration to the table. And today, the models need to be built in a collaborative model mode. Otherwise, they will not represent the diverse point of views. Sensitivity. They know what impact can technology have on the society. I mean, men know it too, but women have a little bit more of that. So we bring so many of these things to the table. And as Jessica pointed out, a model is only as good as the data it trains on. Why when I ask to generate an image of a nurse, it's always a woman? When I ask to generate an image of an engineer, it's always a man. Because it's training over the data that is over internet. And internet mostly, traditionally, saw men as engineers, women as nurses. It's no longer true. But is somebody updating that internet? And these models are getting trained on that? So we need to make sure that we scrap our data for biases, inherent biases that exist on the internet, which with all the models are getting trained on. So data cleanliness, data augmenting, all this is important, in which goes as input to the model, so that we can actually build AI that helps everyone, including 50% of the population here.
Oh, I love that. I would love to continue this conversation. I could spend hours and hours just talking about innovation in AI, the diversity, the need to bring different perspectives. Just because if we look around this room, we all have different backgrounds. We come from different countries. We speak different languages. And that's why I think it's so important that we bring all these different backgrounds and experiences into AI development, because this technology will literally transform the way societies operate. But we need to wrap up our conversation. We are almost at time, and I'm just learning so much from you. But if you allow me to ask just one last question. So Meenu, today we have so many women watching us that come from different fields and different industries. Maybe they are experts in public health, in finance, in retail, coming from all these different fields. So what are some easy, maybe a bit more tactical, first easy steps for someone wanting to use AI in their own industry? And how can they begin their journey towards implementation?
So the first step would be identify a clear, well-defined problem within your business, within your domain. Research the existing AI tools that are relevant to your field. There is a ton of research in this area, and there are lots and lots of tools. A lot of them are free to use. Find some relevant existing AI tools. Gather and analyze your existing data to assess the potential of the AI applications. And sometimes you might need to augment that data. As we said, data is a key part in any machine learning application. Then educate yourself, and not just yourself, educate your team also about the basic AI concepts. You can do this by doing online courses, reading industry articles, potentially consulting with some AI experts that can give you some implementation strategy. And sometimes, when you are like, okay, I still don't know how I can help my help my business with using AI, sometimes you need to see other seed ideas. There are lots of people exploring how to use AI in their fields. So it can sometimes help if you just do a little bit of search online and see what other people are doing. For me, it works better when I'm brainstorming ideas with other people. When I see some idea that sparks, oh yeah, I could do that for my industry too. Oh, I could do that for my business too. I could do that for my team too. I could do that for my home project. I mean, we have been at home also, we so many times think about like, oh, it would be cool to use a machine learning model to solve this problem. It could come from anywhere. So brainstorm, talk to people, read online. I'm sure you can find a problem that machine learning can help solve. These days, machine learning is becoming cheaper and more accessible. So it is in the hands of, we are putting machine learning in hands of everybody. So no problem is too big or too small for AI. So I would just say, start with a clear, well-defined problem that you know that you want to be solved, and then see, what tools exist to help you. And if you are running out of ideas, then I would just brainstorm with somebody, either in your team, either in your company or your family or internet. There are so many forums where you can say like, hey, guess, do you have any ideas on how I can use AI for solving, I'm in this business, how do I help myself?
And the Kaggle community is also a great place to find this inspiration on how to get ideas and which use cases people can start using AI for. So very similar format, Jessica. Very tactical advice for our audience today. What are the key steps that someone should take to turn their idea into a successful startup?
I think whether it's a AI company or any other company, I think if you want to build a venture backable startup, the first thing is to ensure your idea is truly unique and that it has a large enough target market. Because remember, VCs are looking for companies that can get to at least 100 million in annual revenue. So make sure that your idea can do that, and that from an AI modeling perspective, that it's defensible from a competitive landscape, before you even start building. And I think the second thing is to start building, whether that's you as a solo founder getting different AI tools together. And just like Meenu was saying, I think she laid out a brilliant way to actually explore those tools. And I think in a lot of different cities, there are now a lot of support groups for startup founders to either link with AI investors or to link with folks to help you build. I'm based in Seattle, and we're a pretty large AI hub. And I just want to put a shout out to the Allen Institute for AI, the AI2 incubator here in Seattle. That is a huge support system for AI founders here, and I know that exists in other cities as well. So I would recommend kind of reaching out to your local startup ecosystems and start getting involved, finding a co-founder, etc.
That's a great recommendation. And Ovetta, we're wrapping up this panel, and you will have the last word. So, what advice would you give to women currently in the field, so women already in the AI, who aspire to take on more leadership positions?
Yeah, I think Meenu and Jessica definitely hit the tactical activities that you want to do to get started. I think one of the things, and I'm just going to speak philosophically here, is ML and AI cannot solve every problem. So my first principles on designing with AI is to make sure that ML and AI is both applicable and desirable to your problem space. And that means you want to think about shifting your idea or your paradigm on technology from the capabilities to also the limitations of ML and AI. I think it's really important that we understand that this technology is not a balm and Gilead for every problem that's out there. We really want to define our problem space and make sure that ML and AI is applicable as well as desirable. Is it desired by your user group or your target market to automate something that maybe they take pleasure in? These are things that you really want to think about before you do it. I've talked with so many entrepreneurs and startups who thought that AI was the way to go. And then once they started testing their product, they found a huge kind of almost resentment among their target users of automating things that were distinctly human. People are quirky. They decide to do things maybe in a laborious way for a reason. And so you want to make sure that you think about your problem space and whether ML and AI is actually applicable to your problem. And once you decide if it is, then you want to think about the limitations of the technology that you want to apply. AI and ML is only as good as its design and its data. And so it's not going to solve every problem out there, and you can't just let it loose on its own. Think about a toddler that has learned the whole of the internet. Would you release that toddler onto anybody, unsuspecting person? No. So there are some things that you really have to think about, and that includes guardrails, that includes trust and safety, but also the limitations of this technology. You can't just have AI to fix something. So I think philosophically, you want to think through all of these kinds of conundrums when you're deciding to apply ML or AI to your product design.
Thank you so much, Ovetta. That's the perfect ending for this session. I really love how you said AI is only as good as its design and its data, because that's fundamentally right. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I could spend hours just continuing our conversation. I still have so many questions. So maybe we'll have another edition of this panel at some point, simply because the field just keeps evolving so rapidly. Jessica, Meenu, Ovetta, thank you so much for joining this session and for bringing your perspectives on AI development and innovation. Thank you all so much for watching us, and back to the main program. We've learned so much today, from new skills to new perspectives to new ways to solve problems. What did you find most useful? What surprised you? Share your single most impactful or surprising thing you learned about AI today in the chat, or reach out to us on the Google AI forum at discuss.ai.google.dev. As you begin to use all you've learned in your personal and professional work, Google is here to support you. A great next step is to go to Google AI Studio and start using the Gemini API or the Gemma Open Models family. Join a Kaggle competition and engage with the community. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let's keep building together. Google is your best partner. I'll see you next time.